Seth Kaplan is managing partner at Airline Weekly and an airline expert. Thanks for joining us, Seth.
Thanks for having me, Molly.
So you guys have been keeping an eye on things out there. What do you think? How do you think things are going today?
Well, certainly not an unprecedentedly bad day. Flight cancellations in the hundreds, as you said, but that's better than the thousands, which does happen sometimes. But certainly delays into the thousands, and of course, delays can turn into cancellations.
Yeah. What's been done in the last year or so to make things better? Have things been made worse?
Yeah, a little bit of both, Molly. You know what happened? You might remember we used to have these terrible stories of plane loads full of passengers stranded away from the gate without food and water, and the government began actually fining airlines when that happens. And so what airlines did in response, they said, we need to avoid that at all costs. And so what they do now is they tend to be a little bit more conservative about pre-canceling. Proactively, they would say canceling flights to avoid that from happening. So the good news is you don't get those really bad situations anymore. But the bad news is that in order to avoid those situations, they actually inconvenience more passengers. So, many more people are stranded, but they're maybe back at home or at the airport, not without food or water on a plane.
Yeah. So is that because they don't, leave us on the tarmac quite as long, so we're not all lined up and ready to shoot off? There's only a certain amount of time they can keep us there.
Exactly, Molly. There's just no way to know which of those many flights are going to be that flight stuck in that situation. So when the government started saying, literally, we'll fine you millions of dollars for just one plane load of people like that, airlines said, well, we're just going to do everything possible to avoid that. So again, actually, more people inconvenienced, but you don't have that one awful situation. And the other good thing is that because they don't sort of try to fly as long as it's safe to fly and then everything gets stuck everywhere, a little bit easier to recover afterwards because you don't have all those planes and employees stuck all out of position for when airlines actually resume things when the weather gets better.
And when you do get stuck, you can feel kind of helpless. I mean, what can people do if they get canceled or delayed?
Yeah, at that point, you really have to be creative because, let's face it, you're competing really against all your fellow travelers on that canceled flight for very few seats on the next flight. And so, you could kind of help the airline help you get to your destination. One thing, for example, think of alternative airports. If your flight to LaGuardia is canceled, the airline's going to automatically try to find you the next seat to LaGuardia. But, if you're willing to fly to Newark or JFK, if it gets you at least close to where you're going, tell them that. Maybe you're willing to go to Philadelphia or Hartford if it gets you within 100 miles. If so, tell them that because they won't assume it, and that might be the difference in terms of helping you get one of those very few flights to where you're going.
What about tomorrow? Is Christmas Day a big travel day?
Actually, Christmas Day is not, and that used to be more of a helpful fact than it is now, because what used to happen is you had about the same schedule of flights on Christmas Day, but nobody really wanted to fly then. So for one thing, it meant flights were very cheap on Christmas Day. It was the time to get the bargain. And the other thing was that when you had a day like today, well, at least you had all these empty seats tomorrow to reaccommodate people. At least you could get to where you were going on Christmas morning. But now, recently, airlines have said, you know what? If not as many people want to fly on Christmas, let's just not fly as much. Let's give our own employees, from their perspective, the day off and just not put as many seats in the air. They do that really to kind of keep fares up and flights full. But the other impact is that when you have a day like today, not as many empty seats to reaccommodate people tomorrow.
All right, Seth Kaplan, Airline Weekly, thanks for joining us. And we all hope that everyone gets where they're going safely this Christmas. Thanks so much.
Likewise, Molly. Thank you.